And we're gonna push flat and we're gonna rotate around, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down. And we go over. Back in and just start popping out little things. Come in with the bottom of the brush, just tapping up, and then more pressure as we go down, right? Different angles. Hi, and welcome back to Paint with Josh. Today we did a gigantic 24 by 30 inch black canvas, a lot of blue and crimson undercolor, a different way to do the rocks than we normally do. A lot of cool stuff in this video, so I'm glad you clicked on it. You're obviously excited. You want to learn how to paint this painting. So check the description down below. Make sure you get all the colors you need. Make sure you get your canvas nice and wet. Get ready to throw some paint on it. We're going to do it just like this. Hey, welcome back, guys, to Paint with Josh. It's Christmas time during the month of December. I've taken our Bob Ross liquid clear and we put it on the top of this canvas. Now we're gonna wipe it all off because you don't wanna have too much. You can definitely have too much liquid clear. And you'll see just by the amount that's on our thing, just how much of it likes to come off, right? You don't need to have it too dry. You don't wanna have it, you gotta have it still be a little bit slick, right? So just one more time, just for good measure. And then we'll go through the colors that we have for today. Remember, you can get your Paint with Josh hats and hoodies and sweaters and shirts and all sorts of that stuff. paintwithjosh.etsy.com. Go to the store. Support us, right? Every time you guys buy something, it helps me buy another canvas. Now, before we do anything, we need to put some undercolor on this painting, right? So we'll take a little bit of our blue, and we're just gonna start to fill up the area of the sky that we want to show a little bit of that blue, right? All we're doing is just dumping it on. You might not be able to see it very well, but that's just fine. Let's put this down just so we can hold this big old shaky canvas, right? Put that blue underneath here. Stretch it out all the way. You don't wanna have it be clumpy. You gotta stretch it. Stretch it out, soften it out. Not everything has to be covered in blue, right? Not all of it, that's for sure. And the more you have, the brighter it's going to be, the brighter it's going to show when we start to put our white paint with it. Let's have a little bit more, maybe down in here. Just wherever, right? I'm literally making it up as we go. Making up the painting. Never painted one like this before. This one's actually my version of one of the fans' paintings named Sam Creel. He sent me one of his paintings and I was like, man, that's really cool. I want to try to paint that, or at least my version of it. So we'll do it on a real big canvas. Now I'm going to switch colors. Let's wash all the blue off of this brush. We don't want to have all that blue. Just shake it into a can, into the bucket. Comes out nice and clean, right? Dab it off on a paper towel. Now, let's go into our crimson colors. All right, it's gorgeous crimson. Load the brush up with that, and then everywhere that's not blue, let's drop a little bit of crimson in, right? And what's gonna be cool about this is it'll light up differently in different places. You'll have little areas of pink show through, or as it mixes with the blue, you'll get the purples. It's gonna be gorgeous. So again, mix it out. Don't overly mix it in with our blue. Don't wanna have too much, right? Back and forth, just like so. Mix that down there, mix that over here, and now we'll be ready to paint. A little bit more of the crimson, maybe up in here, or on the side, wherever. Okay, now we have it pretty much everywhere across the canvas. We'll have this gorgeous little painting. Fantastic. All right, wash the brush off again. Nice clean brush, fantastically done. Now, as we go across our sky with all of these colors and everything on the canvas, with all the white, it's gonna shine through in different places. It's gonna be fantastic. Just up and down, mine's real big. Yours won't take so long. But up and down, side to side, helps that liquid clear kind of spread out. Keeps our canvas nice and slick. Man, my arm's gonna get tired. Look at that. Whew. All right, one more clean and we'll be good to go. All right, now let's grab our old Solo cup. Mine looks just like this. We usually use it for sunsets, but today we're gonna put some white paint on the brush, okay? So let's load up the white paint. Show you real quick. just like this. Don't need too crazy, too much of it. I mean, that's a lot. We might need less than that. Okay, now I'm gonna come up here and we're gonna decide, do we wanna have a crazy mountain? Do we wanna have just forest? Where do we want our light to come from? Let's say it comes from over here. All right, so we're gonna put that up there. We're gonna grab our brush, just around. Look at, instantly it starts to turn blue because that white mixes in with the blue color. All right, fantastic, fantastic. Now set our brush down off to the side, somewhere where I'm not gonna get paint all over it. Now, I don't think I want this much paint on the brush, so let's knock that, either knock it off into the bucket, get some of that paint off of there, or clean your brush, one or the other. Now that we have less, let's start to drag this into the center, just like we do with a sunset, but with a blue night sky. See what that does? Just like that, get that nice deep dark hole in the center. Very cool. Now I'm gonna spread it out as well. All right, spread it out. That kind of looks like an eyeball. That's very neat. Spread that out. I'm gonna get rid of that hard line that's in between both of them, right? Just by blending. Blend it out, blend it out. Very cool. Very cool. Very lightly in here because I want to keep it dark, right? Don't want it to be the same color. Now we'll come back in and with our filbert brush, gonna load up our filbert just like this. Cute little guy. Just a little bit of white on it. Don't need a whole lot. Come back into the dead center of that spot. And we're going to push flat and we're going to rotate around. Rotate the bristles, keeping our circle. Get this nice little bright blue little moon out there. Looks cool. Looks very cool. Now, we're going to have some sort of clouds or something as all this color blends out, right? So let's start taking this, pulling it away, blending it out into the edge as it's going, right? We want trying to get it to stretch. Don't want to ruin all the brightness, just trying to get it to stretch out. There we go. Really don't want to come in and touch that moon now that it's done, right? Definitely don't want to do that. Very cool. Okay, now that it's nice and soft around the edge, why don't we come in, we'll grab up a little bit of white, just on the one corner of the brush, just like this. Going through, one side, gorgeous, look at that, ooh. Now come up here and just giant bit of cloud. Who knows, right in front of the moon, everywhere. Cuts across the whole scene, right? And it pop out in different places. Just make it messy, nasty, messy cloud. Now we're gonna come in with a clean, dry brush, just like that. Come across, start to pull it down, just using the smallest little bits. Leave that darkness though, don't cover everything. Don't want it all to be the same. Don't want it all to have the same color, otherwise there's no depth. There's no life to the cloud. You gotta have it be gorgeous. Oh, look at that. Really wants to blend in around the blue that we've already blended, right? So be careful. Or you can come back in, grab up a little bit more white paint, and in some areas brighten it up. Maybe this guy was over here. Or down in there. Doesn't all even have to connect. Because as we come back and mix it very, very, very lightly, look at that. It starts to grow. Starts to connect on its own because now it's growing to touch. Right? Fantastic. Very cool. Take our big 2-inch brush very lightly. From the top to the bottom. Don't touch the moon. There we go. Cross. Again, don't touch the moon. Cross the painting. Bam. Softens all those clouds down there. Gorgeous. Oh. We can even put something up there. Maybe a little guy, little floater. Right, something soft, way above there, just to stand out against all that dark color. Again, we're gonna start to take him, blend him down, or blend him up. How do you want yours to look? Very neat, soft little things, start to piece in together. What happens if maybe these guys almost connected, right? Just dumping it out. Coming back in with the brush very lightly. Not every piece has to be so super bright. They don't all have to touch, right? Anything you want it to look like is what it's gonna look like. The more and more you mix, the more it's gonna all turn into the same shade, right? And that's not, might a lot of times might not be what you want, for it to be all the same. Maybe just get these little guys floating way off in the distance, right? Very cool. Put a little bit of flat bottom underneath them. All it is just a little swip and a swipe of the brush is all you can do sometimes. Seems as though we touched our moon back there when we were doing a little swipey swipe. So let's take our cloud just a little bit closer to the moon right there. Just like it's just barely peeking out. And we're gonna try not to touch the moon. There we go. Not to touch the moon, but you can always go back and fix little things that you didn't like, right? Very cool. Very cool. Now let's take a little bit more, just because we don't know how far down we're gonna come. Maybe there was another little section of cloud that came in here and stayed up into that dark area, right? The bottom side of that cloud. Maybe it was over here and down and over and down and messy. It's all about being messy. Make it messy. That's what we want to see. There we go. Look at that. A cloud is just a jumbled up bit of water vapor flying around in the air, being pushed by the wind. It's never going to be the same shape, never all the same color. Remember, don't let these two light colors touch. Keep that area of dark disconnect in between there. Disconnections. Very soft, very light pressure. Nothing too crazy. It doesn't need to be. Don't have to have it go all the way to from side to side or anything like that. Just depends on what you want it to look like. If it looks good to you, then it looks good to you. Little swipes, very light pressure, very light. Up here, take this guy with a clean brush, right? Otherwise, you're just going to continue to spread the color. So with a clean brush, get all of our little brush strokes that we don't want to see. And now we've got a nice bright bit of cloud down underneath there. Very cool. You can even take a little bit more up into here. Maybe that connected down around into that cloud. Who knows? Sure does now, right? We can take this guy and blend him up, blend him up, blend him out, blend him down, just like a clock would. Maybe only the tops of the clouds or the very base got lit up like that. Very little pressure, very little a little amount of paint, right? Maybe over here, just had a couple soft little guys, just floating way off in the distance. All depends if you can even see it when we get done. Fantastic. You know what, since we got the whole thing full of clouds, let's just make a few more little bits over there. We can just change up the whole sky. Pushing up and down, mixing as we go. More pressure, less pressure. Pulling it away, pulling it to the side. There we go. Very cool. Very cool. Take our brush, just make them soft. Making them soft, that's all it does. Softens it for the next layer. There we go. Right, just work at it until you like how it looks. Doesn't have to look like anybody's except for yours, right? Very neat. Okay, now let's wash off that brush. Get all the dark color off of that brush. Now we're gonna come into our blue. The blue makes this gorgeous bit of tree color. Snag a bit of that white. Start to mix that in until it's nice and kind of dark blue. You need the white to help it stand out on this dark canvas. But you don't want it to be too bright either, right? Maybe we come up in here, start tapping in these guys as they came down, coming up to the clouds, maybe popping down a little bit, up and down, up and down. You never want it to be all the same. Never want it to be all the same. Maybe we come up into the clouds over here where they were very bright. All the way. We need to go get some more paint. Actually, let's not. Let's keep it like that, and we'll see what it looks like, right? We'll start to swipe up on them. A little bit of pressure so they kind of stretch out, they grow a little. Come up into our clouds, just that little bit of darker color, peek into the top of the clouds. Very, very, very neat. Come back in here, start to take some of that light blue color and drag it down into the darkness, but don't ruin all of our little bits, right? Those are cool. Cool little details. Right, maybe take it, spread some of that out this way, but up and down with your fog too. Don't just make it a straight line. I never like it to be just a straight line. Look at this whole canvas just bouncing around. Right? Soft, foggy little forest back there. What's happening? Who knows? Who knows? Where's the base of the trees? I don't know. Are they down here? Are they up here? What can we see? What can't we see? Very cool. Now let's take a little bit more white and work the white into our brush. Maybe we'll have like a frozen section of those trees. See, it's still blue on the palette here, but it's very bright blue, which is going to be so bright against all of these guys. So as we came in Who knows? Maybe let's chuck them in this way. We'll come back, start dumping them on. Little things cutting in front of the blue and now staying kind of beneath, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down. Changing it, change the shape, change the size, change the lay of the land. Maybe these guys are much bigger. Or we can put something else in front of them. All depends. Go back, get more paint though. Gotta have it be nice and sharp on the brush. That creates our nice tip-top sharps of our forest, right? Very cool. Leave that little bit of darkness in between. That gives us the distance. Gotta work that distance. Okay, come back again. Swiping up. It just turns them sharp, makes them more tree-like to me. Very cool, just like that. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of trees. Come back in. Very lightly dragging down some of that lighter color, letting it mix in. Different heights, different levels. Right? It will come up here, really bring it down. Or come up onto this side and really come way up here. Right? All depends on what you want yours to look like. Okay, what are we gonna do off to the side over here? Just in case we can see any trees, why don't we just pop in a couple. We'll just connect them with this forest guy in here. Same color, same everything, right? Maybe we had a couple come down a little bit further just so they look a little taller. Right? Again, swiping up, having them blend in, becoming part of that little bit of forest. Again, tapping different heights, bringing it down, bringing it up, creating all that fog at the base of our camps. Keeping everything nice and dark though. We don't want it to be super bright yet, right? Very cool. Soft little thing. All right, now if we can put some big ones in here, we can do lots of stuff. So let's wash the brushes off. Okay, let's come back just for one more swipes. See if we can get them just to look a little bit further away. It all depends on what you want yours to look like, right? Just like that. A little bit of brush left, a little bit of color left on the brush. We can just knock that off onto the old beater bucket. Now comes the reason why we have so much white on the palette. So let's take this white and start to pull it down and start to decide where our land lives. Maybe back here it starts to come out. Right, starts to live back there. Depends on the angle of our pulls. Right down here, maybe we come a little sharper. All depends what you want yours to look like. Right, get it to blend back up into our forest. Kind of slide it up into there, into that misty area. Who knows what's living back there? What's at the base? What's happening? What is happening back there? Don't want it to be too super bright, obviously, so keep the little differences, little different changes in the color, different things. Or we come over here, get the smallest bit more. Maybe we'll come down like this. And maybe these guys end up together. Bam. That way it helps push our little piece backwards a little bit. Right? You take this guy, make him very soft as he's flowing back. And we got a big old hill over here. Now all of a sudden something's living down in the base there. What's happening? Right? Why don't we could take like a little river. Right? Let's get a little black actually. A little black, a little crimson, a little blue. Make that dark color just on the corner of the brush though. Nothing crazy. Don't need the whole brush. Don't need anything nuts. Right? Maybe there was a bit where perhaps it came out back in here and then it turned, started to come down, getting wider and wider, and then maybe it turned again and started to come off this way. Right? It all depends again on what you want it to look like. That's right. Very small little pulls. I'm not trying to stretch all that paint out. Don't need it to grow all crazily. Back here, the more you go over it, the less and less and less it becomes, right? Less noticeable anyway. Very small little things. Because again, not trying to make it grow and take over the entire thing. That's not what we want. It has to be very flat. Our sideways pulls, very flat. If we're dealing with water, man, the people love to talk about water. Okay, let's make it a little bit darker, just back and forth, same things, just to have that little bit of change in color. All right, the more white we put over it, the more it'll go disappear. So, let's see, a little bit more white in here. Maybe we can start to hide little bits of it. Slide it back, make it very thin. Because out here, we don't need it to be super thick, right? Way off in the distance, it's not gonna be as thick as it would be if it was coming down close to us. So very softly drag in that white. If you put too much, you're gonna instantly cover over him, right? So don't do that. But again, drag it in, very soft, just to keep our little river very small, right? There we go. And again, these guys are like big C shapes. It's starting to be an arc. Back here, it wasn't so much. Right? Maybe we can take this guy, very lightly start to just mist up the bottom of these. And then we won't know what's cloud, what's mist, what's bushes even. Those kind of look like bushes. Again, not trying to make them all the same. A couple little taps even. Just to make them look a little different. Like a frozen something or other. Way back there. And again, the more paint that we put on, the more it's going to show. So decide what you want to show. Make sure your strokes are the same, right? We started going uphill with this guy. There we go. Bringing it down. Same angles, right? Now what's going to happen with our river? Maybe we'll have a little waterfall right there. That'd be cool. We could do that. We could do a little waterfall right there. Now maybe it might look neat if we take just a little bit of white and just put it every so often, maybe, right? Just maybe. Might not look good, but every so often take a little bit of white back there. And then if we can just so lightly swipe over it, it might look like a little bit of disturbance in the water or a ripple or another little level or something, right? We'll take a little bit of blue on the other corner of our dark brush. Right, now we have two different colors on the same brush. Take a little bit of blue, go over that guy, just so it's a little bit more bluey. Right, again, not a whole lot of paint, but I just don't want it to be all black and dark. That way, if we do catch a little bit of it with that white paint, it might look like a little bit of water. Right, back and forth. Again, just adding that little touch of blue in there has already made it better in my eyes. We do need to take a little bit of snow though. Come back in. Right? Never gonna see every piece of everything, especially the river. What if there was a little teeny tiny, like, just a little waterfall right there? Something small. There we go, bounces down, maybe crashes right here, and then continues on. Little things. Little teeny tiny things. Now, if we're gonna do that, we have to perspectively make it look right. Even by smushing over it a little bit and not even having it as a waterfall. I like that a little bit better. Let me take a few little details, maybe back in here with our palette knife, a small edge. Just take them, maybe scrape in just a little bit of something, some sort of disturbance, some sort of difference. Maybe it's the water bashing up against the edge of the shore. Who knows? But it's something. Some kind of something that's going to make you look out there and go, what is that? Oh, okay, that must be some water. Some sort of, it just helps with your brain. Right? Maybe this guy started to come in just with a little bit of white, because there's not a whole lot of lit up area here. Maybe it's all frozen underneath. Who knows? All depends. What do you think? What do you want yours to be? Right? Very lightly, because it wants to disappear so fast. Let's see. Gotta have your angles be right too. Right? You can always go back and cover over it, but it's kind of hard to make it. Let's see, we'll come back in here. A little bit of liquid white, and maybe back. Start showing a couple little watery details as it's coming down. Does that look correct? Josh, does that look right? I don't know. Let's see what it looks like once we flatten it down. Just flatten it. Twisting with those same angles, right? Rotating over. This guy back here, you know what? Let's just cover him just a little bit, just so we see that soft little thing. We know it's a river. We know it's a frozen bit of river back there. Might look cool too is in the foreground, putting a little darkness, a little bit of dark line. You get that shadow, like maybe there was a little lip right up in there. Come back with our brush. Really start to shape it, pull it down, change the angle of our land, whatever you want to do. Very lightly though, just a couple little light swipes. Perfect. Fantastic. You can bring this guy all the way up here if you wanted to too. Just like that. Depends on our swipes, right? Boom. Very cool. Soft little thing. Soft little thing out there. All the angle change is all it is, right? Less paint on the brush now because we're mixing with darker and darker colors helps it kind of get darker on its own. That's the fun thing about this underpainting technique. You don't have to have a lot of color on the brush, and the darkness will save itself for you as you work down with all these other darker colors. Very cool. Why don't we let's do our waterfall here. Maybe it broke out right here. It was like, hey, give me some of that. So we're gonna take a little bit of blue. It's gonna pop itself out. So we're gonna work that blue in first so our water can mix in with it, right? Got to have our undercolor there. Don't want it to be super thick, so I'm going to take our brush and soften it down. But we know that's what's going to light up for our little bit of waterfall. Okay, now we're going to take the brush, clean it off, into the old cup, into the old bucket, now into our liquid white and our titanium white right here. And as we take our brush and we go over, very cool. Go back, get some more paint. It's got to be thick. So it rotates down and it wants to mix in. So it's got to be fresh paint almost every time. Okay? Straight out of there. It's coming out of something falling down right there. Very cool. Very softly. Very softly. Same rotational angles. So soft. Boom. Just like that. Now, we'll decide what happens up here and what's going on over here. Don't want to add too much color underneath our waterfall, that's for sure. That's for sure. Okay, maybe it came down and it started to crash in right here. Who knows? Who knows? All right, start to change. Now all of a sudden this is water. And we have to have some sort of dark disconnect in between there. So why don't we do like a little bit of a, we'll have like a little rock. Okay, we'll take our fan brush and we'll cover over right here, hiding all of that stuff right there. Boom. A little bit of a rock. And then over here, as we come down, can match himself back up with the level of the lay of the land, right? There we go. Now we got some rocky area that our waterfall can roll over. The one thing you have to do is cover a bit of where it's coming out of. So we don't want to hide too much of it, right? Don't want to hide too much of our path back there. We took so long to make it our little river, our frozen river, as it's about to pop out underneath this thing. Very cool. Now we have to do the same thing on the other side. So we have to get our black and our crimson and our blue all together. You can use some of the Van Dyke brown over here as well. I love that dark brown color. Now, maybe on this side, it's gonna pop out maybe a little bit in front. Maybe, oh, we could do it, oh my goodness. That would look cool if we could do it over the top. Okay, again, covering some of that bit of the water. It has to be covered by something, even out here. Come over it and cover that spot with a little bit of darkness. It just helps hide it back in there, right? Then we can come up here, decide what we want our rocks to look like, slide them off into nothing back there. Very cool. Very cool. And since we're down here, why don't we just finish off our waterway right here. Okay, we're gonna come back in, take that liquid white, titanium white. Add our little splashies, just a couple little ones. Maybe start to pull them off sideways, back and forth, until we decide what we want our water to look like. Very cool. Don't have to have it all light up either. Maybe that little moonlight can't reach all the way down here. All right, what it does look like it needs is a little bit of pull right over the edge, just like that. Gotta have it be high enough to make sense. Boom, there goes the water falling down. Right, maybe we had a little bit of water line back in here underneath our guy. A little bit of splash happening. Maybe a little bit underneath there. You can do it with your fan knife. You can do it with a your fan knife. You can do it with your palette knife. You can do it with a fan brush. You can do it with all sorts of stuff. Right? You want it to be a little bit darker? Put a little bit more blue on the brush. Mix that in down here, right? Maybe not all of it got to be so bright. And we lost some of that blue undercolor, so we put it back in. Very cool. All right, let's take that brush. We're going to wash off our small brush. We're going to load up our big brush. And let's do a few trees, okay? So why don't we come up here, little black, little crimson, little blue, all on the brush, mushing it in, tapping it in, getting it all nasty and thick and gross, just like that. Fantastic. Maybe come up here and let's drop one in like that. Right? Don't have to go all the way down with your little trunk. It's just a guideline, right? Then we're going to come up here, start tapping in little things, coming down, tapping in, just like so. Maybe we can do it this way. Tapping in from underneath, and you start to build your tree out, popping them in, just like that. Go back, load up your brush again, because you need all those thick, dark colors. Gotta have that dark, thick paint on the brush. And that way it sticks out and really tries to grab some highlight for us. Very cool. I'm gonna come down in here, again, just popping it back and forth, rotating out, getting a little bit bigger every so often, but nothing too crazy. I don't want it to be humongous, right? I don't want it to grow like a triangle, like a pyramid all the way down. Take this guy, maybe pull him out down here. Pull this guy out this way. Maybe he's sitting up on top of a little hill, and by pulling this color down, we're adding the effect of that shadow that the moon is casting, right? Pulling it down towards us, letting it blend in, not letting it connect to this other dark color, right? Very lightly, pulling it out, playing with our angles. What's it look like? What's happening? Very cool. Solemn little tree out there. Well, not little, he's humongous. Okay, let's take some of that color again. Our blue, black, and crimson. We're going to come over here and maybe off in the distance. This guy was a little bit smaller. He's a little further away. But we'll come in, trying to stay out of the shadows. Pop him up. Just messing about. Right? All the way down. You can be as big as you want, as small as you want, as fat as you want, as thin as you want. Branches can come out on both sides. Right? Until you've achieved the size and shape that you want. But again, the more you pull it down, the more paint you put on there, the more kind of shadowy look we're going to have to cast into our darkness, right? Again, playing with the same lines and the same level that we were on. Very cool. You can put a bush at the bottom. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can add more white off of your brush. Let's clean one of these 1-inch brushes. All right, take our white, come back in here. All right, and we got that up there, here. Light in different areas, okay? Now we're gonna go back to that other brush that's got our darker color on it. It's gonna mix in and help it blend down. See that? Light gets hit in different areas at different times. Try not to touch everything. Fantastic. Take our little brush back here. There we go. Just mixing it in until I like the way that it looks. Doesn't matter what you guys think. Doesn't matter what London thinks. It's what I want to see and what you want to see in your painting, right? Doesn't matter what your husband says. Oh, it should be bigger. It should be this. It should be that. You'd be like, sorry, it's my, are we painting my painting? Or are we painting your painting? I'm sorry. Right? Now, husbands and wives can offer fantastic, brutal honesty too. That's the fun part about it. Like, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, ooh, they cut straight through your heart. So, man, cool little thing. Got our little rocks over here. Starting to play out into this dark spot. Maybe we put another big tree right here in the front, like it's down on the edge. Very cool. But first, let's highlight some stuff. Let's take our liquid white, come into our white, because it's a nice snowy night. It's got that little bit of blue in with it. And we're gonna come over here, we're gonna tap the top of the tree, just like that. And maybe we'll come back in and just start popping out little things, just on the left side though. Just bouncing it up, hitting some trees, hitting some light, hitting some different things. Now with that dark color that's on the brush, you can very lightly go back in and fill in just a couple of those other branches, right? And that way, we're not lighting up the whole tree. You can still see a little piece of it. Fantastic, cool little things, right? That's the best part about making trees and the snow and all that. It's never a perfect thing. It's never gonna be a perfect, you know, they're not all gonna be the same exact snow pattern cover. A little bit more liquid white right into our white and bluish, right? So that's the cool thing, but don't let the paint go too far up the brush, right? Come back in here, touch the top, just like that. Come back in and then tap upwards, right? Little tiny things. All we really wanna see. Leaving some of our areas dark, leaving some of them light, especially out here on the edge where we think the light might hit the most. Back here, maybe not so much. Get a little darker. Just pop it back and forth until you have this gorgeous little thing. Doesn't need to be super bright down along the bottom, but every so often you can make it. You can do whatever you want. It's your little tree, right? Pop them in, pop them up. Get a cool little tree just like that. But without having all this beautiful bright backing color, that tree doesn't look so close. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like it's right up here. So you gotta have, it's all in one thing, right? Maybe we'll take this guy just very lightly. Again, we can always go back over the rocks. Maybe brighten up this area. And the more white you add to it, the more it's gonna grow for sure, right? Gonna grow like wildfire. There we go, very neat. Don't even finish it. Leave it like that. Take a little bit more of our white even. Drop it down in front like it's nighttime. The snow is gonna be so bright with a full moon. Woo, jeez, look at that. Very cool, just having it come up. I mean, you don't even have to see your little bit of stream, right? It would come up, maybe the water goes over the snow went over the top in that spot. And it's just barely coming out. People are gonna figure out what that is when they see that watery shape, right? Adding our snow, pulling it down, changing the angle, doing different things. Maybe over here, really started to come down, maybe line up with our water, right? Just like that. Very cool. All depends on the angle of our brush and the color. Look at all this crimson-y color too, lighting up. Oh, it's fantastic. Take our snow, bring it down to the water, cover over what we don't want to see, leaving little shadows, little differences as always, just like that. Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's take a little bit of our fan brush and a little bit of our white, and maybe we can shape these guys by just pulling down slightly, right? Not covering too much, not exposing too much. They're nice, deep frozen rocks. Maybe this guy came down over here, right? Or went down over this side. Nothing too nuts, right? No palette knife, no craziness. Just changing these rocks, making them a little softer, a little brighter, letting them mix in with that undercolor that's in there, right? Maybe we had a new little rock that popped up. Wanted to be down in here. Let it mix in, let it change. Cool little things start to happen, right? Little things. Not all the rocks are gonna all be the same color or the same shape or the same roundness. Gotta have some darkness, some shadows in there. Maybe this guy connected over there and changed what he looked like. Maybe we'll add some brown. Right, add a little bit of our brown in there. Start to really highlight some of these undertones with that brown. Come back again. Maybe this guy's a little bit darker brown. As we're getting further and further away from our light source, that guy starts to change and mix up. Right, and we got another of this little darker brown underneath. All depends on what you want yours to look like. Cool little boulders, right? All mixed in. A little bit of shadows in there. Different little things are darker colors. Hide in little crevices. Cool little bits where the rock is just, you know, it's kind of hard to see what's happening down in there. Very neat. Cool little bit of rock. Cool little bit of differences. Little piece right there. Why not? Right? Come over here. Start to dump some of that color onto this guy. Changing our angle of our rotations, right? That's what it is to me. Change your rotational angle. Like we're flying space shuttles over here. A little bit of yellow ochre into this, just the smallest little bit. Why not? Maybe that guy is a little slightly different color. All right, a little bit more brown. Different angles of pulling and everything, right? The rocks are never going to be this perfect thing. Mix it in, change it up, move the brush, pull it around a different angle. That's very cool. I mean, we had a whole little bit of darkness in there, just straight up black, creating these cool little pieces of shadow in between each rock. Very neat, very neat. Pull this guy out, and then we'll mix him in with some white. All right, as we come out here, now we'll start to pull that white down on top of him, starting from the edge, pulling down, having it feed back in there like the snow is coming over. Very cool. And we do a small little bit of shoreline back in here, just a little bit of that darkness, tiniest bit on the edge, and then we're gonna make it soft. Straight pulls to the side though. Straight pull to the side. That does not look like I thought it was going to. So let's add a little bit more. And a little bit more paint. There we go. We take this guy, start to slide him up into our hill first, and then slide him down into the water. There we go. Just have that little dark line in there. That little piece is so helpful. Now let's take a little bit of white, put it underneath that dark piece. And that can be our little water line just kind of kissing against the edge right here. This bit you can always massage in and clean it up however you want. You just literally move it however you want to move it. Right? Couple little things happening down there. Go back in. Maybe our little bit of water popped out that way. Or it came over here. Whatever we want to do. Just make it up in your mind, right? Very cool. I think I want to do another big tree over here. So let's come down. All right, get our blue, our crimson, our black, all nastily on the same brush again. And let's see. We could do another big one over here. We could do a couple little friends. We could do a big one down here. We could do a little sticky guy. We could do all sorts of stuff. Why don't we do a little sticky guy? Come in like that. The more we push, the thicker his little tree trunk becomes, right? So bring him down there, and that'll be where he lives. Now we'll grab a liner brush, dip our liner brush into our low odor mineral spirits, and then into our dark color, same color as up here, and then maybe this guy had a few little branches decided to grow wherever they want to grow. All right, just make sure that if they're thick on the edge, they've got to be thick on the inside too. Got to hold all that stuff up, right? That whole big branch, it's got to be held up by something. All right, maybe we had a whole nother little guy come out over here. Twisting, rotating, turning the bristles. Extending the trunk if we feel it needs to be thicker, right? Go back, get more paint thinner because you need it. Dip it in a couple times, mix it up so you have a good amount, a good little pile. And we got a tree branch that popped off over that way. Or we came in and it came up over here or there. Or had another little branch off the side. Or this guy was up over here, or he had another little buddy, little flick a little like that. You get these cool little trees starting to happen. And we had a branch over there, branch over here, coming off the same way. This is why we put that lighter color out into the back, so you can see your dark branches as we put them on. Very cool. Very neat. All right, let's take our little tree. We're gonna pull him back and forth. And the more of his trunk that you get rid of, the further away it makes him look, right? So let's take a little bit of our white snowy paint. Maybe we came up on the side of him like this. And just had a whole big chunk up on the side of his poor little self. Bam, very cool. Very lightly, I'm gonna take this guy, just to blend it in with the snow that's already there. Boom. Just like that. Drop it in, play around, pull the snow down. You got a little buried tree back here. Just like that. Very neat. Very neat. All right, let's take a little bit of our liquid white just to make this soft. We'll bring it in here to that white color. And then on this side, the front side, we're gonna have to leave a little bit of highlight just by pushing it down with the knife. Okay, now we're gonna take it and upside down, kind of pull it to the side. Let it mix in with the dark color that's there. Very lightly, and then as you get up to the top, sometimes you can't pull it anymore. So just leave that area however it wants to be. Leave it like that. Right, maybe drag off a little bit. All right, now we'll take our liner brush, go into our liquid white, and then just on the edges of our branches out here where maybe it held a little bit of snow, maybe we'll come down. It got thick enough, maybe in here it could hold a little snow. Maybe on the edge out here, this little curve inside here, right? Just little places. Maybe this part is too thick and it went up and all the way out to the edge, right? Just kind of holding that snow there. It builds up on the tips of these branches, comes down, and maybe gets very thick as it sits in there, right? Very cool. Then go to the end, make it sharp, out to the edge of your branch. You can even take this guy over here, continue him off that side. Feed a few little details into there, right? Couple little things. Someone's gonna look and they're gonna see them. They will see them for you, right? Come up here, maybe come down, dump in our snowy bits. Maybe it sat in there, maybe along the edge. Now remember, come back, take this guy, go back up to the top. And just like that, got snow-covered branches. Very cool. Very cool. Wash off our little liner brush. And maybe we'll put a couple little bushes down in here, right? Maybe this guy had a little friend, just popping it out. A couple little things, right? We take the bottom. Take the bottom, slide him out, push him down, play with our angles, right? How was it looking before? There we go, just like that. Cool little bit of a old little bush hanging out there by that big old tree, gigantic old tree. Okay, a little bit of white with our liquid white. Come back in and just tap on a few little highlights to that guy, just hanging out up there. Just like so. Put this brush away. Now, do we do one more tree? Let's do another one over here. I got all this dark paint out here on the palette, so let's do another one. Mix it all up. Crimson, black, blue, pulling them from all three piles. Maybe we'll have just a little guy, just a little tree out here, but he's got to be big enough to make sense, right? Little guy out there. Now, come in. Come in with the bottom of the brush, just tapping up, and then more pressure as we go down, right? Tap up, more pressure, pushing in harder as we go. All right, go back, Grab a little bit more of that color. And then again, we're gonna come back in here, really start popping it in, pushing it out, and then decide where our little guy lives down here, right? The further we go down, the closer he's gonna be to us, which is what we want. Fill in all those spaces with that dark, thick paint. You don't want it to be gray. You don't want it to be white showing through too much of it, right? Like right here. That doesn't make any sense. Cover that guy up. Slap the brush at it. Slap it, pull it away. Slap it, pull it away. You get all these little fingers to stick off. And that's how you highlight a good tree. You gotta have those fingers. They're there waiting for us, right? Now, last time, come back in, get the liquid white into our white. Both sides of the brush. We'll do this in one go. We're gonna pop the tree in, and we're gonna come up and touch, and touch, and touch, and just pop it down. Little differences, not trying to cover all of the darkness, right? Popping up. Different angles. It's a little bit less, a little darker down around the bottom. Very cool. Take the bottom of this guy, pull him out anyway. Doesn't really matter. Right, just down there like that. Pull him up like this. We got the same sort of angle. You can pull it down if you wanted to, and then swipe over it. Just like that. Very neat. Very cool. Cool little things happening over here. Very cool. There we go. Gonna make it so we can't really tell where the water begins and where the land ends. Or if I even like these water lines in there. There we go. Very cool. Okay, we do need a little bit of water to hold in our bit of rocks back here. So we gotta have a little bit of drippage around the edge, maybe around the edge of this guy as he goes down to the darkness, right? Very cool. This rock even looks like it's close. If we can light it up bright, it'll look like it's closer than the other rocks are. Almost like the water goes underneath. Very cool. Okay, let's wash that off. We'll add the family, we'll be done. Okay, a little bit of our white, maybe a little bit of our blue. I'll have a little bit of blue twinge to these birds. Look at it, it swaps the blue for the white, just like that. Come in, gonna grab up the old maul stick. And maybe our birds lived out here today. Now, I paint my family into every painting that we do, but I can't paint people. So in order to include them, that's myself, my wife, and my daughter, and they go into every single painting that we do here at Paint with Josh. So I encourage you to do the same with your family, and it makes it a lot of fun, makes everybody feel included. Just like that. That was a hard one to get to show down here. There we go. Perfection. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, for hanging out, for painting this painting and having a fun time with me. And until we see you guys again on the next one, take care, have the rest of a good day, and a Merry Christmas, and a Happy Holidays, and a Happy Hanukkah. Take care, bye-bye, boom!